Welcome to Dr. TSPR show. This is Dr. Tangella Shiva Prasad Reddy alias Dr. TSPR. Namaste, Adab, hello, and a warm welcome to viewers. We are just 3 minutes delayed. As usual, the technical snacks keep happening whenever we have Dr. Gautam Da. Whenever he's there, nothing will go straight. That is why, on the eve of Vinayaka Chauthi, Ganesh festival, we say all vignas should go away. All those bad elements should stop happening in one's life. Now here, Dr. Gautam Das comes with such a wonderful pandemic era third episode, wherein not only your state, our state, but entire India as a country and entire world should get out of this bad phase called the COVID-19, followed by again threatening monkeypox. Is it a monkey pox or money pox? That bigger agenda, that bigger show and bigger talk, that will reveal. As usual, whenever I have Dr. Gautam Da, it is science, truth, freedom, and beautiful evidences so that a common man can relate, correlate to the scientific bodies, right from Indian Council of Medical Research to Director, Drug Controller, Drug Control India, as well as all the health departments of the state, including the Prime Minister's office. When this show is on, there is another interesting guest who is an agriculture scientist who says, first of all, you are polluting your own basic foodstuffs. That is why all this. But today he says, I will listen to you and I am going to debate with you. Is none other than Dr. Anupan Paul. Welcome, sir. Hearty welcome to you for the first time on my show. Dr. Gautam Da, now the technical snack forces me to become the presenter and present your PPT to the world so that you can go ahead. Yes, Dr. Gautam Das.
Dear viewers, it is always my pleasure to be back on DRTSPR channel. We are back with our discussion series, Pandemic Era. We are going to present today the third series, Monkeypox or Moneypox, Big Talk and Bigger Agenda. Let's begin with a very simple question. How many of you are aware that the biggest public health emergency right now is monkeypox? If you are not afraid, if you do not care about it, if you laugh it out in disbelief, it is not your fault. The media campaign to whip up fear on monkeypox has failed to gather steam. It is fizzling out. Our purpose is not to resurrect the story of monkeypox. Our intention is to get to the bottom of the pandemic preparedness business that wishes to flourish not only with COVID and monkeypox, but predicts many more health emergencies in coming days. Next.
Yes, sir.
Fictitious or real? Why has there been so much fuss about monkeypox? It is because of a great personality. Next. Yes. He is that great personality. He did it again. Before saying goodbye to COVID-19, he is welcoming another one by declaring monkeypox a fake. Full form is Public Health Emergency of International Concern. He did it on 23rd July. Next. Next.
Yes.
He did the same dramatic declaration on 30th January 2020, when he categorized COVID-19 as a fake, when the total number of deaths across the world was just 171. Next. Now, let's have a quick recap on what was then and what is now, being the preconditions of their purported public health emergency. Then, during 2020, it was a novel virus, completely unknown to the world. And now, it is known since 1971. So it was discovered in the 60s. Outbreak was known in 1971. So it has been there in West and Central Africa for last 3 decades. It is not unknown, it is not novel. During 2020, within 9 days of knowing that there is some human-to-human contact, this Mr. Tedros declared COVID-19 a fake. And this monkeypox now is known endemic disease, has history of some sporadic outbreak, and never posed public emergency. COVID-19 was said to be highly fatal when it was declared as a public health emergency, because it was causing so-called pneumonia, severe pneumonia. But finally it turned out to be a least fatal flu-like disease with mortality rate around 0.23%. In contrast to that, this monkeypox is a self-limiting disease. It causes 0 death in healthy individuals. And during the declaration of COVID-19 as a fake, there were only 171 deaths reported till then. And now, just 5 deaths they declared fake. Next, please. To get a real perspective of great health emergencies which are really existing across the world, let's look at the big picture. Take, for example, the incidence of seasonal influenza. 2.9 to 6.5 lakh people die every year. On an average, 22,000 to 54,000 people die every month due to seasonal influenza. It is an astronomical figure compared to just 5 deaths caused by monkeypox. Yet, influenza is not a fake. Next, please. Tuberculosis is prevalent in more than 30 countries. 1.5 million people died in 2020 alone. And due to COVID, due to lockdown, there was disruption and diversion of fund to COVID management. Because of that, the percentage of undetected tuberculosis cases rose to 41%. It was reported in Indian media. And India shares 41% of the total disease burden of the world. Still, by the reckoning, TB is not a fake. Next. Another killer parasitic disease is malaria. Out of 241 million cases recorded in 2020 alone, 62,700 people died in 2020. All these data were derived from the WHO sites only. Four African countries, which are said to be the home of monkeypox, had half of all the cases. 96% of all deaths occurred in these 4 countries. Still, monkeypox tops their list, and malaria fails to qualify as the public health emergency by the standards set by Mr. Tedros and his cohorts. Next. Worldwide, 15,000 children die every day due to infectious disease, mostly contributed by hunger and malnutrition. India witnessed 2,000 deaths every day due to the same reason. Africa registers 8 times more death than Europe. Undernourished children suffer from illness up to 160 days in a year. Again, this grim scenario does not fit to be a public health emergency. Next. 1.5 years into the vaccine rollout, there is alarming rise in number of deaths post-vaccination and serious injuries are being reported. The real-time US online vaccine adverse effect registration platform, VAERS, it is shown here on the slide, reveals that as of 29th July 2022, nearly 30,000 people died post-vaccination. And its European counterpart, Vigilance, reported that almost 8,000 people died following vaccinations. World Health Organization's own surveillance platform, VG Access, reported that there have been 4.1 million side effects, which has never been seen following administration of any vaccine in last 50 years. In spite of this mind-boggling data on post-COVID, post-vaccination deaths and serious injuries, Mr. Tedros remains unfazed and unmoved. There is no urgency to declare this menace as a public health emergency. Next. Now the question is, why has there been so much disproportionate emphasis on monkeypox? Why there is absolute silence on the real public health emergencies that I have mentioned? The reason is very simple. Mr. Tedros has some other priorities. He overruled his own advisors' majority opinion against the declaration of faith. In doing so, on 23rd June 2020, he made his first move to declare a faith, but it was defeated by 11 against and 3 for declaring faith. He attempted next move on 21st July 2022. It was again defeated by 9 against and 6 favoring faith. But Mr. Tedros is unrelenting. He unilaterally declared monkeypox a fake. Though, next please, though his action is blatantly undemocratic and authoritarian, he defended his position, saying that he had 5 elements of IHR, meaning International Health Regulations, in his favor. Now let's see, what are those 5 mysterious elements of IHR that provided him the shield? Next, please.
Yeah, it's there on your screen.
Next, please.
Yeah, it is there on your screen. Tedros defends his dictatorial decision by 5 elements of IHR.
Oh, it is not in my screen, right? Okay. Okay.
Dr. Anupam,
It is
are you able to
mentioned
watch it? Dr. Anupam, are
In
you
a
able?
speech,
Dr. Anupam, are you able to watch it on your screen?
Yeah. Yes, I can watch it. Yes, no problem.
Yeah, Dr. Gautam, just check once your screen.
yes, yes.
Is it
It's,
okay?
it's the, next, please.
Yeah,
Next.
it's there on your screen. 5 elements you have to describe. them.
Next one.
No, 5 elements.
Slide number 13.
Yeah, but 5 elements you did not read out.
Next.
Information of virus spreading
I'll
to
be reading
many
it.
countries.
Please focus. Slide number 13. 1, 3. Yes, that is there. Thank you. This is the 5 mysterious elements. It was mentioned in his speech given on 23rd July this year. There, information of virus spreading to many countries, 3 criteria of fake met, EC had no consensus, scientific evidence and relevant information is insufficient, and there are many unknowns. Very strange. There are unknowns, information is insufficient, risk to human health and potential of interference with international traffic. It is not difficult to understand that all these 5 elements are just backwards and without any substantive truth. Next. In the run-up to the declaration of monkeypox as a plague, who has consistently put out such simulation data and graphical representation that really looks scary? Here is an example. But once you have close scrutiny of the facts, you will understand that the hypes and hooplas around monkeypox stand exposed. The Central and West African countries, which are said to be the home of monkeypox, where it has been endemic for last 3 decades, they reported minuscule number of cases. See here, it is mentioned in a WHO publication. Congo recorded just 10, Ghana 5, Nigeria 41, South Africa 1, and Central African Republic is 8. In contrast, USA and Europe, which are said to be the places where monkeypox has been exported. See the number of cases. There are hundreds and hundreds of cases being reported there. Canada 210, USA 142, France 277, and UK as high as 793, where it was not known earlier. It is not only mysterious, it is inexplicable also. Whatever it is, it leaves a question: did monkeypox virus hop too far and too early to bail out Mr. Tedros? This is our question. Next, please. Here is another awful simulation data and graphical representation showing that the monkeypox is sweeping over a large part of the world. Here, in deep blue shade, the countries were shown where it is hitting very hard. But the fact is that till then, there were only 5 deaths reported. And all 5 deaths were from Central African Republic and Nigeria, just 2 countries where it has been endemic. There was no death reported in Europe and USA. Still, Europe was placed under high alert. Why? Reason is simple. Because they have other urgency. The urgency was the necessity to accelerate research into the use of vaccines, therapeutics, and other tools. Next, please. We understand Tedros is also a witty man. He knows how to make fun with a serious argument and how to make mockery of scientific truth. While his EC, Emergency Committee, was divided with clear majority against the declaration of fake by 9 versus 6, 9 against and 6 for. But surprisingly, Mr. Tedros claimed, as is being shown in this report of the Stat magazine, he claimed that he acted as the tiebreaker. Another interesting thing, he himself said that the outbreak was largely concentrated among the gay and bisexual men with multiple sex partners. But in the same breath, he cautioned that pregnants and children are the most vulnerable. What can be stranger than this? At the global stage of public health, who can be better comedian than the proponent of such theory? That is our question. Next, please. Here, the image of a sculptor shows the fig leaf can be both graceful and extraordinary. Here are 3 extraordinary international health criteria that Mr. Tedros invoked to defend his position. They were extraordinary event. Mind it, if all these 3 criteria are met, any health conditions or disease can be declared public health emergency of the world. These 3 are this: extraordinary event, risk of spread to other countries, potentially require coordinated international response. All are loosely defined terms, again without any substantive truth or scientific explanations. Next. Again, read his statement given on 23rd July. You will understand how Mr. Tedros can effortlessly defy logic and common sense. He himself said in his speech that he suspects new mode of transmission, but he has little understanding. He means his organization has really little understanding. His quotes are highlighted here. He admits scientific and relevant information are insufficient and there are many unknowns. In spite of that, in spite of so many unknowns and insufficient informations, Tedros claims that he knows what could be the tools to stop the transmission of monkeypox. And predictably, his magic tools are vaccines, diagnostics, and treatments. This is not mine. This is all he has said in his speech. Next, please. Slide number 19, yes. No doubt, Mr. Tedros is a messiah of world's new public health order. Still, there remains a question. Is he really committed to the suffering humanity? His own statement belies that. Why? It appears that he is committed to something else other than human suffering. What is that? He is committed to CEPI, CEPI. In this speech given on 8th March, published in Husai, he said that a commitment to CEPI is a commitment to science. Fully funding CEPI is a commitment for a better future. What is this CEPI about? CEPI is a WHO-mediated platform for the promotion of vaccines, drugs, and diagnostics. Can you hear?
Yes, yeah, I'm hearing you. I think I request other guests to just mute themselves so that that voice will not creep into this. The other guests, kindly
Okay.
mute yourself so that Dr. Das can be heard.
Am I
like that.
visible? Am I visible to you?
Yeah, I think you are. But there is some voice in between. Yeah, you can speak, Dr. Das.
Should I continue? Okay, fine. Fine. So, his commitment to CEPI is very clear in his own admission. What is this CEPI about? CEPI is a platform for the promotion of vaccines, diagnostics, and drugs. Full form is Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness and Innovations. It is actually a coalition of big pharmaceutical companies manufacturing vaccines, drugs, diagnostics, big investors and banking giants like Goldman Sachs, and private organizations like Wellcome Trust and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And Tedros is so much delighted to be associated with this coalition that he himself says, look at this, what he said. He said that, let me highlight 3 specific lessons of CEPI, our CEPI. He's saying our CEPI. So it is our responsibility to know something more about his CEPI. Next slide, please. Yes. Question is, why and how is this CEPI running the pandemic business? Let's look at the profiles of its investors and partners. CEPI was founded in Davos Summit of World Economic Forum back in 2017. It was founded by the governments of Norway and India. Mark it. It was founded by the governments of Norway and India, and by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Wellcome, and the World Economic Forum. So it is not only a global stage for public health, it is a global stage for a business spanning all over the world. And that business is with the vaccines, drugs, and diagnostics. And this CEPI has roped in many governments across the world. Here is a list of the governments who have offered money to the fund. And among the private players were, on the right hand side you can see Avast, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Goldman Sachs, Nestle, Wellcome Trust, and many others. Next slide. Here is the annual progress report of CEPI 2021. They say that the revenue collected in the pandemic year of 2020 was 4 times larger than that was in the previous year, 2019. And profit was a modest sum of 33,579 US dollar. It is a minuscule amount. Actual profit that was reaped during that period was astronomical. We know a single entity of CEPI, Pfizer company, is reported to be profiting $65,000 every minute. Now you can imagine. Leaving aside the profitability, let us now look at some crazy claims that they have made in this annual progress report. They said CEPI is filling a critical gap in vaccine ecosystem. A critical gap. What is that gap? The gap is really existing between the production and the market. And what is the vaccine ecosystem? Clearly, it is a superfluous term. There is no such thing as vaccine ecosystem. They actually refer to vaccine empire. It means the network of vaccine business. It is a formidable network, largely controlled by Gavi, Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunizations. And question is, how will they fill this critical gap? How will they fill this critical gap? Firstly, they say themselves, firstly, carefully listen, firstly, by moving vaccine candidate before epidemic begins. This is not my statement or explanation at all. It is not exaggerated thing. It is exactly what they said in the annual progress report. They themselves said this. Firstly, by moving vaccine candidate before the epidemic begins and stockpiling for use in outbreaks. Secondly, development of vaccine against new and unknown pathogen. Very surprising. New and unknown pathogen. The pathogen that is not yet known, they are developing vaccine against them. Dear viewers, please wait. Don't fall off your seat. Here is more for you to be surprised and appalled. Next slide.
थोड़ा हिंदी में भी मैं कहना चाहता हूँ कि आप जानकार हो जाइए, नागरिक जानकार हो जाइए किस तरह की साजिश की जा रही है। इतनी बड़ी खुलासा आज ये लाइव शो पे डॉक्टर दा ने, गौतम दास ने किया है। फर्स्टली क्या बोलते हैं, हम वैक्सीन कैंडिडेट, जब भी याद रखिए ट्रायल में वैक्सीन कैंडिडेट और प्लेसिबो होता है, सेफ्टी, एफिकेसी, इम्यूनोजेनिसिटी और पीर रिव्यू, छोटे ग्रुप में, फिर बड़ा ग्रुप में, फिर बाद में एक्सपर्ट्स को लेके बाद में 10 साल तक वैक्सीन बनने का समय। लेकिन ये लोग क्या कर रहे हैं, ये लोग पहले ही एक वैक्सीन कैंडिडेट को हम करते हैं महामारी के पहले ही, और उसको स्टॉक करके हम रखते हैं ताकि महामारी जब घोषित हो तो हम उसका उपयोग करें। तो कितनी बड़ी साजिश है। तो महामारी, बिना महामारी क्या है समझे आप कैंडिडेट वैक्सीन। और दूसरी बुरी बात देखिए, डेवलपमेंट ऑफ वैक्सीन अगेंस्ट न्यू एंड अननोन पैथोजन। ये लोग बोल रहे कि हम टीका को, नई टीका को, कोई नई रोग या कोई भी हो जो बिना रोग या बिना पैथोजन जो रोग कारण है वो बिना पता चले हम एक टीका बना के रखते हैं। अब लोग जान जाइए सेपी WHO किस तरह लोगों को गुमराह कर रहा है, किस तरह लोगों की ज़िंदगी के साथ ये लोग हल्ला मचा चुके हैं और लूट रहे हैं लोग। कनाडा से लेके भारत, किस तरह हमारे सरकारें इनके गुलाम हो गए और हमको डर के मारे गुलामी बना देकर किस तरह हमारे पैसे और हमारे स्वास्थ्य, हमारा आरोग्य और साथ में हमारी आर्थिक व्यवस्था को किस तरह ये लोग उठा ले जा रहे ताकि हम भिखारी बने और डरपुक की ज़िंदगी जिए। तो यही हम बोलते हैं एक आधार, और आधार के दौर पर हम बोलते हैं एक शास्त्रीयता आधार के दौर पर ही ये शोज चलते हैं। और डॉक्टर गौतम दास और एक बार एक बड़ी खुलासी आज पैंडेमिक एरा 3 के बदौलत इन्होंने पूरी दुनिया को, भारत के सरकार से लेकर पूरी दुनिया को आज ने चैलेंज किया है आधार के साथ। आज क्या कहोगे आप? व्हाट विल यू से डॉक्टर टेड्रोस WHO, all those countries involved in this including India, Mr. Prime Minister, and the Canadian Prime Minister who is still harassing Europe and Africa. Africa already started to debunk WHO, from where Dr. Tedros comes. Yes sir, please. Wonderful presentation. Hats off to you sir. Go ahead sir.
Now get into the other part of this annual progress report. They say that we have already known that they have coerced the governments across the world to pump money into their fund, and they're developing vaccines, candidate vaccines for future outbreaks. Okay, and they have decided what would be the 5 portfolio pathogens. 5 portfolio pathogens. The word portfolio is a buzzword in the financial market. We all know that. And they have decided what would be the 5 future pathogens, and they will be developing, and they have already developed the vaccines against it. It is clear that this is a futuristic investment which needs assured future market. So only future pandemics can ensure that future market. This is precisely the reason why Mr. Tedros is probably repeating or repeatedly talking about the impending future pandemics. But the question is, they may develop vaccines, but who will be there to approve their vaccines? There is a possibility that there will remain a critical gap by their own term. No, they have sealed that gap also. They have roped in the regulatory authorities like EMA, European Medicine Agency, FDA, WHO, etc., etc. A host of regulatory bodies they have roped in, and they co-opted them to be a part of their so-called coordination group. So these regulatory authorities, who is supposed to be a neutral body, they have been an integral part of this business platform. On the other side of this coordination group, there are scientists sitting in the scientific advisory committee. Quite expectedly, they will be churning out hundreds or probably thousands of studies and research papers justifying the need of vaccines, need of developing vaccines against new and unknown pathogens. Next slide, please. Here is a list of 5 priority pathogens. They are Ebola, Nipah, MERS, Lassa, Rift, Chikungunya, as well as many other diseases. And very interesting revelation is that from 2017, they have been developing these candidate vaccines. And they themselves said that by 2019, all 5 have broken out. Very interesting, mysterious indeed. Next slide.
ये बड़ी खुलासा जो बताइए, ये सेपी माने कोएलिशन फॉर एपिडेमिक प्रिपेयर्डनेस इनोवेशंस, क्या बोलिए डॉक्टर गौतम दास?
Sorry?
No, I was just trying to give a Hindi gist of सेपी माने सेपी.
Here is a list. If you go through it, there is a list of their candidate vaccines being developed. You can have some idea what are the future outbreaks will be and what are the vaccines will be in the market. Next slide.
या सेपी का मतलब कोएलिशन फॉर एपिडेमिक प्रिपेयर्डनेस इनोवेशंस है. आप जानकार जाना चाहते हो, कोएलिशन फॉर एपिडेमिक प्रिपेयर्डनेस इनोवेशन, सेपी एक बॉडी है जिसमें सरकारें हैं और प्राइवेट प्लेयर्स है, बिल गेट से लेके वेलकम ट्रस्ट और इस तरह की काफ़ी लोग इसमें हैं. और ये 2017 में ही एक बड़ी साजिश बनाई ये लोग, किस तरह हम लोगों को स्वास्थ्य के नाम पे लूटे. और यही 5 महामारी के नाम 2019 में कोविड महामारी के पहले ये लोग तय कर चुके हैं. इसके हिसाब से ही वो लोग टीका वैक्सीन्स को तैयार करेंगे. वो सब इबोला, निपा, मेर्स, लासा, रिफ्ट, चिकनगुनिया, ये सब ऑलरेडी ये मान के ही चल रहे थे. तो ये बड़ी खुलासा, आप सोचिए किस तरह साजिश किया गया अपने ज़िंदगी पर, ताकि हम डर सके. क्योंकि अगर स्वास्थ्य का ही आपको डर लगा, और किस तरह वो लोग मीडिया को मैनेज करके हर एक देश में इस तरह की भय की एक वातावरण ये लोग ने पैदा किया. इसीलिए हम हर शो में बता रहे हैं, आप जानकार हो जाइए, आप पूछिए ये वैक्सीन में क्या है, ये वायरस को आपने आइसोलेट किया है या नहीं. जब आप ये पूछते जाएंगे तब ये लोग
There is more weird claims like this. They said they have not only developed future vaccines for new and unknown pathogens, they have built vaccine library. Carefully note it. They built vaccine library for each family virus, and they are trumpeting that they will be making vaccine for future outbreak against disease X within 100 days. So if there is any outbreak of disease X, they will be able to market the vaccine within 100 days. That is the promise they held out. Next slide. And finally, slide number 27, please. Yes. And finally, this is the bombshell that was dropped by none other than Mr. Tedros. On 8th March this year, he has given a speech where he says that 2 years before the birth of CEPI, highlighted portions of his speech. He said,
Your voice, sir, your voice is getting distorted. Dr. Gautam Das ji, your voice. Yes, speak please. Dr. Gautam Das. Doctor ji. Dr. Anupam ji, are you there? Dr. Gautam Das. Dr. Gautam Das. So finally he says Tedros said that they developed vaccine against disease X, which turned out to be a coronavirus. A Freudian slip. Clear admission that COVID vaccines were developed even before its outbreak due to a novel virus. Are you back, Dr. Gautam? So very clearly ये शो से ये पता चलता है कि पूरी तैयारी के साथ WHO, सेपी और गैवी और पूरे थोड़े सरकार, ये बिजनेस वाले पूरे तैयारी के साथ ये सब कुछ किया है, डर का माहौल पैदा किया है. और डॉक्टर टेड्रोस स्लिप ऑफ टंग, ही सेज दे डेवलप्ड वैक्सीन अगेंस्ट डिजीज एक्स which turned out to be a coronavirus. A Freudian slip, clear admission that COVID vaccines were developed even before its outbreak due to a novel virus. Dr. Gautam Das, are you back? Dr. Gautam Das,
yes.
please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, I am here. Okay, this is the bombshell that has been dropped by none other than Mr. Tedros. He himself admitted that they have developed a vaccine against a disease X, which finally turned out to be COVID-19. So, it is a clear admission on his part that Ramayana was scripted before Ram was born. Next slide, the last one. So, quite expectedly, in the coming days, the Ramayana of pandemic preparedness business will be unfolding, and predictably, there will be many more fictitious outbreaks like monkeypox. So before ending this show, For now, we can say monkeypox outbreak is fictitious, but monkeypox outbreak is real, thanks to Mr. Tedros and his CEPI.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
तो ने खुलासा किया है डॉक्टर गौतम दास ने. नाउ वी आर चैलेंजिंग वर्ल्ड हेल्थ ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, आवर ओन प्राइम मिनिस्टर. You simply follow him. You have invited him to Gujarat, including the Union Health Minister, all state governments in the country, including all the political parties. You see Rahul Gandhi, even still he goes by wearing a mask. All of a sudden he takes out mask, and because during UPA, this Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, under the name of what is that organization? Health Foundation of India. That's how it started.
Public Health Foundation of
Public
India.
Health Foundation of India was started during UPA Congress regime. Now, when they opened windows, now this NDA government under Mr. Modi, BJP government, they have opened the doors. Now, this is the reality on the eve of Vinayaka Chauthi. Now, it is in the hands of every concerned citizen in India. We feel the celebrating Vinayaka Chauthi, Ganesh Chaturthi, will bring good to you. What better good than you want than this show, unleashing truth with evidences, so that not just India, entire world now can start questioning World Health Organization, CDC, FDA, Indian Council of Medical Research, and all their governments. What COVID-19 virus was not manufactured before? If not, you reveal the contents of COVID-19 vaccine. You reveal the whether you have isolated COVID-19 virus or not. Similarly, monkeypox, endemic only in those areas. Let me come back to
Endemic in West African and Central African countries.
no. I'm trying to come out of it so that we can all debate. Yes, Dr. Anupam. Such a big exposure. Do you agree with me? Dr. Anupam? You also just switch on your video, Dr. Gautam.
Oh, fine. Video. Turn on.
Dr. Anupam ji also. Such a big exposure, monkeypox endemic in only Africa, and that too by own Dr. Tedros statements. It is in between the gay and all such gay characters, multiple gay partners. Then how is that, Mr. Dr. Tedros, it is affecting children and women? What is this fellow's background? What is Dr. Tedros' background, Dr. Gautam Das? Who the hell he is? He's just making a fun of the entire world. He's fooling the world. And see, for these investors, these fellows have no sense having such a unscientific man, untruthful man, unleashing. See, truth will never hide itself. Dr. Tedros is a better living example. Truth will never hide itself.
Question.
That
Hello?
is why Dr.
Hello?
Tedros, out of slip of tongue, he says all these vaccines.
Hello?
You have seen 2017 till 2019, vaccines have been manufactured in advance for 5 major disorders. That also were there on the screen. And incidentally, that vaccine which was manufactured became COVID-19. So he himself states, and he himself, that's what was being asked by our guest.
Mr.
Dr. Ted.
Oh, he cannot. Oh, please allow him to open the mic. Dr. Anupam Pal
Oh,
cannot switch on his mic. Is there any difficulty on your side?
no.
Okay, let me see.
He is yet to connect. Ask him to rejoin. Not from our side.
Oh, his mic is on. His mic is on.
Yeah, that's what. His mic is
Your
on.
mic is on.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Switch on your video, sir. I
Please,
think,
Dr. Paul.
Dr. Paul, I think this is the
Yeah.
biggest exposure on the eve of Ganesh Chaturthi.
Hmm.
Not just for India, for the
Yes.
entire world. What do you say?
So, can you hear me?
We are hearing you, please. Go
Can you
ahead.
hear me?
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. So it's a nice presentation by Dr. Gautam Das, and thank you, Dr. Reddy, for inviting me in this session. But as a common man, I will ask some questions.
Please.
Is a commonsensical questions. These commonsensical questions are that once upon a time we heard a lot about Hitler and Mussolini, and they were the dictators. Then now who has taken their role as dictator? And these dictatorial activities are accompanied by and they are taking decisions. I have seen a slide that there are 11 members, 5 voted, and there's a quorum or like that. So science is guided by quorum. That cannot be. So if 60 people are saying that sun is rising in the west, so you will accept it or not. So that should be started. Rightly, you pointed out that what qualification Mr. Tedros has. So this is a very important point. Now the weather, they are going to they're going to develop some vaccine. So before it is declared endemic, though it's not at all endemic, so whether they are following Koch's postulates, whether they are following Becham's theory, that who was working, Mr. Louis Pasteur was working under him, and who is the volunteer for trial vaccine, and what are the components of the vaccine for RNA vaccine and for this would-be vaccine, and who are developing, and who are taking part in this trial, and what are the placebos they are giving, and why human beings are needed vaccination, why all the animals are not at all needed vaccination. So these are the simple questions. And basically, I do not believe in green revolution. So similarly, that's the corporate intensification of chemical farming. In a similar way, I do not believe in vaccination. That those who don't believe in green revolution, they should not take vaccine, and they don't believe in vaccination. This system. Now, this system of this modern medicine, there's a basic flaws are there. The system of modern medicine ensures capital investment. So you invest money and you get the benefit. This simple process. This is not for vaccine, but for all other medical equipments, chemotherapy, everywhere. This is the main thing that we should raise questions. This method of treatment, this is the only method of treatment that we are given to believe that this is the most scientific. And how do you say this is scientific? And how science is defined in your term, and why there are millions of people, millions of Adivasi people living in and around in India and in Africa, in Brazil, in Amazon forest, say they don't need at all this modern medical treatment. They have their own facilities, own immune system. So what is natural immunity? So they have stopped talking about this natural immunity. So we can get natural immunity from our natural food. So there is no natural food. Then the government of India is going to launch fortified food. That is the rice, wheat, and other things that should be artificially fortified, and that are being distributed through public distribution system. The iron rich, zinc rich. But we are not questioning those doctors or those experts that these irons or the zincs are not easily absorbed in our body because it is artificially added. This is not inherent. But we have enormous food crops in India, rich in iron, zinc, whatever you say, calcium. So we are not at all promoting them. So government of India is going to spend 2,700 crores of rupees for this artificial fortification. So instead of artificial fortification, so we have our own natural food crops. So why we are not proposing, we are not talking about these natural foods for our own immunity. So immunity doesn't mean that only vaccine is is working on our body. So there are other methods of developing immunity that you know very well. This is the physical exercise, sunlight, the situation where you are working, whether you are keeping pets, whether you are cultivating, whether you are fishing. These are the common things. You see that during the COVID period that I mentioned earlier, during COVID period, I don't know how many of the farmers or the person engaged in in cattle keeping are affected with COVID. Even the migratory workers, how many of them are affected? Even the Dharavi Basti of Bombay, huge number of people are there. But we talk a lot about that because of congregation of people might cause COVID. But how many of them are affected?
Farmer
these are the
strike.
needs and the people.
Farmer strike, sir. Farmer
Yes.
strike around Delhi. Farmer strike.
Yes, farmer strike, 1 year, 1 year long. So these are not, they are not affected. But the news media, the portals, the YouTube channels, the television channels, all are, hijacked in such a way, they are brainwashed. When we have been brainwashed in such a way, they have been made to believe this is the only thing, this is the only source of hope that you can rely on. And people are spreading, are giving their opinion that the vaccine is the only remedy. But those who are not taking, it seems they are the enemy of the people. So this is a very dangerous signal. So I have my own body. So what I can take or I cannot take, this is my own decision. So we're not talking about the European movement or the Canadian movement where the thousands of people are on the road again protesting against this mandatory vaccine. Even one of our Bengali fellow in Canada, they raised protest in Canada against this forced vaccination. How many of us were aware of that? Nearly 1,000 nurses have quit their job because of forced vaccination, and there's a crisis of nurses. So we're not talking about this because the media doesn't expose all these things, this truth. So we must think it over. We must give a pause, and what we are going to do, what we should not do. So that's a very big question for us. So these are the simple questions that I'm raising. The basic questions of biology, we should raise the basic questions of biology. So many of us have gone through the basics of biology, so genetics or bias or everything. So based on that, our regular curriculum, we can raise the questions. So that doesn't mean that we have to be a doctor, isn't it? I'm wrong, or am I wrong?
Yes, Dr.
To
Gautam,
raise this
answer
question.
him.
Let me respond, Dr. Pal. Let me respond very briefly.
Okay. So and yes, and the one thing,
Yes,
one
I
last
appreciate
thing,
it, I appreciate
one last thing. One last thing.
Okay,
There are
go on.
astronomers.
Carry on, carry on.
They are raising farmists or astronomers. Now, recently we have seen there are doctor astronomers, and they are extrapolating data, and they are telling that the fourth wave is coming, fifth wave is coming. As such, this is getting ridiculous. So this is biology. So this is biology. This is not extrapolation. So they are extrapolating data and giving the false hope and giving rumors and fear mongering things that they are doing. So they are the actual enemy of the people. It's a very great and grave question I'm raising. So that's all. This is my submission.
Yeah, Dr. Gautam Das.
Okay, let me respond. All the questions raised by Dr. Pal is a valid one, and we have been trying to address all these questions at least for last 1.5 years. And it is not that we have answered all the questions. We are creating the situation so that more and more people keep asking questions. That is our main objective. We do not pretend that we don't know all the answers. We can inspire the people to ask more and more valid questions, pertinent questions that affect their lives. Because questions do not necessarily originate from the theoretical background. It should originate from our real life. Exactly. Dr. Anupam Pal has raised the pertinent questions. And regarding his assertions, I agree with him that with Green Revolution in 70s, almost 50 years back, these big corporations got access to the soil and our ecosystem. After 50 years, by the way of genetic vaccines, they have got access into our body. Both are essentially same from the viewpoint of biology. Another thing is that why we are discussing the role of WHO boss and other organizations associated with it, how are they functioning, why are exposing these things? It is because when we started our campaign, our movement, this type of discussions, questioning the very basic foundations of these genetic vaccines, we were opposed by our own group of doctors, rationalists. Even they are proud of their scientific understanding. Their main opposition against us that this vaccine is actually a marvel of science. That is how they present it. That is how they make the people believe that it is actually the marvel of vaccines. They're getting vaccines and making it to the people, marketing it within just 6 months. It is a marvelous discovery or advancement of science. That is how they present it. That is why today I have presented this fact. Is it really the marvel of vaccine? Or is it the marvel of business acumen, business strategy? There is no science at all. It is everything about business. Because we know that World Economic Forum once published an article that says that now the problem is not on the production side of vaccine, it is on the demand side. During that time, the vaccine mandates were exercised, were promulgated in different countries. They declared that enough vaccines were produced. Now they need market. So that was the need of the market. Because they clearly said that the problem is in the demand side. To shore up the demand, they have imposed the vaccine mandates. So not only from the viewpoint of biology, from the viewpoint of medicine, we have to expose the things from all possible angles. That is why we are discussing these things. Thank you, Mr. Dr. Pal.
Thank you.
या इट्स वंडरफुल. तो मैं थोड़ी हिंदी में जानकारी देने की कोशिश करता हूँ, क्योंकि आज ऐसा एक दिन है, सुदिन है लोगों के लिए, नागरिकों के लिए, खासकर भारत नागरिकों के लिए. भारत नागरिक के साथ दुनिया के हर कोई नागरिक जो भी देख रहा है ये शो, आज इतनी बड़ी खुलासा किस तरह हमारे जीवन के साथ साजिश किया गया 50 साल के पहले ग्रीन रेवोल्यूशन के नाम पे. स्वामीनाथन जी, जो हम हंसते कूदते, जो एक सहज सिद्ध, एक आरोग्य, जो खाने की जो भंडार थी, हमारी आहार की भंडार जो थी, उसको ग्रीन रेवोल्यूशन के नाम पे हम यही कहते हैं कि केमिकलाइजेशन ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर, हाइब्रिडाइजेशन ऑफ सीड्स, जो सहज सिद्ध से तरीके से हमारी खेती बाड़ी हो रही थी, उसको ख़त्म करके उसमें एक केमिकल की आवाज़ ला चुके हैं. और साथ में जो भी धान हम जिस तरह हम स्टोर कर रहे थे, जो सीड्स हम कहते हैं, वो सहज सिद्ध तरीके की होती थी, उसको हाइब्रिडाइज बना के, ताकि हमारे स्वास्थ्य, जिस्म किस तरह जो भी सहज है, सहज गुण आहार में जो भी आहार सहज गुण का आहार है उसी को हमारी शरीर स्वीकार करता है। तो इसको नकार करने के लिए ही एक ग्रीन रेवोल्यूशन 50 साल पहले ले आया। और आज जिस तरह बड़ी साजिश 2020 में हमारे साथ, हमारी आरोग्य के साथ, स्वास्थ्य के साथ जो की गई है, वो निवारण के रूप में टीकाएं, निवारण के रूप में जो वैक्सीन, जेनेटिकली इंजीनियरिंग, और उसमें क्या क्या है, हम इसीलिए हम डिमांड कर रहे हैं। सुप्रीम कोर्ट में 15 महीने के ऊपर विचारण चला, क्या करे चीफ जस्टिस या वहाँ पर हमारे जज महाम, क्या वैक्सीन में क्या है बताए आज तक? कोविड-19 वायरस किस तरह आए कुछ बताए? और कोविड-19 के नाम पर किस तरह की चिकित्सा हुई बताए? ये लोग चिकित्सा जो भी मर गए कोविड-19 के नाम पर 50,000 दे रहे थे, क्या पोस्टमार्टम ऑटोप्सी रिपोर्ट ने किया है? क्या मजाक उड़ाया है हमारी स्वच्छ, हमारी उच्चतम न्यायालय, साथ में ICMR, प्राइम मिनिस्टर्स ऑफिस, हर एक राष्ट्र सरकार, हर एक राष्ट्र हाई कोर्ट। क्या ये आधार के साथ नहीं होनी चाहिए विचारण? There should not be trial with evidences. That is how the courts have to be. Did they find what these vaccines contain? Was COVID-19 was isolated? What is the treatment given when unfortunately those who have died, you are paying 50,000? Did you do postmortem or autopsy? यही है नई साजिश टीकाओं द्वारा। ये लोग, क्योंकि दुनिया के संपन्न लोग पूरे इसमें बिजनेस बना चुके हैं स्वास्थ्य को, और उसके साथ में हमारे सरकारें भी जोड़ चुकी हैं, ताकि लोगों को डर, स्वास्थ्य के नाम पे डर पैदा करे। और ऑलरेडी हम बता चुके हैं शो के द्वारा 2017-2019 में ही ये लोग वैक्सीन तैयार कर चुके हैं। किस कैसे महामारियों को किस तरह ये लोगों को वापस लाना है, ये वैक्सीन को, टीकाओं को, और किस तरह कमाना है लोगों को डरा के। ये पूरा बड़ी साजिश हमारे स्वास्थ्य के साथ और 50 साल पहले हमारे आहार के साथ। तो आप जागो मेरे मित्रों, नागरिकों, जागो आप, क्योंकि स्वास्थ्य आपका है। जब आप स्वस्थ होंगे, आपकी परिवार स्वस्थ होगा, आपके आजू बाजू जो भी है, आपका सोसाइटी, समाज स्वस्थ होगा, आपका राष्ट्र स्वस्थ होगा, आपका देश स्वस्थ होगा। अगर आप स्वास्थ्य खो बैठे, आपका परिवार, समाज, राष्ट्र, देश पूरा खत्म हो जाएगा। लेकिन थोड़े लोग बचेंगे जो टीकाएं नहीं लेंगे, और वो महामारी के नाम पे जो चिकित्सा होगी वो नहीं होगा उनके पास। इसीलिए आप डिमांड कीजिए, ये टीका में क्या है, ये चिकित्सा में क्या है, लोग मरे, ऑटोप्सी पोस्टमार्टम रिपोर्ट कहाँ है, और कहाँ से ये महामारी आया। और एक जानकारी मैं आपको देना चाहता हूँ, ये शो के द्वारा जो खुलासा हुआ है, अपना जिस्म और अपनी दिमाग, हर इंसान दूसरे इंसान से अलग है। हर इंसान का स्वास्थ्य जो है, सहज निरोधक शक्ति जो इम्यूनिटी कहते हैं, एक इंसान से वो दूसरे इंसान से पक्का अलग है। जब आपके परिवार में ही अलग है, आपके समाज में ही एक इंसान के दूसरे इंसान सहज रोग निरोधक शक्ति या रहन सहन, जिस तरह खाते पीते अगर अलग है, किस तरह ये राष्ट्र या देश या पूरी दुनिया में एक हो सकती है, और एक होकर उनको एक ही टीका लगाया जा सकता है। तो ये बड़ी साजिश है। एक ही चिकित्सा कैसे दी जा सकती है, ये बड़ी साजिश है। Your own body, your own immunity will react in a different way to different circumstances within your own self. Likewise, your own family, your society, your state and country. Different humans react differently. So they will have different immune system, the best way to protect themselves. Then how can you commonly pool the entire world into one and start giving a COVID-19 vaccine? So just think, this is a big, big conspiracy that has been unraveled through this wonderful show by Dr. Gautam Da. Yes, Dr. Paul, go ahead.
Yes, I want to something. वो एक मैंने किताब देखा, वो किताब का नाम है वो वैक्सीन the biggest fraud in medical history, some 437-page book, and one डॉक्टर साहब एक व्हाट्सएप में एक तस्वीर भेजा। तो तस्वीर में क्या था, दो वो लड़के का वो तस्वीर था, एक का स्मॉल पॉक्स हुआ और एक का नहीं हुआ। तो उन्होंने बताया क्या देखिए, जिनका स्मॉल पॉक्स नहीं हुआ उन्होंने वैक्सीन नहीं लिया, जिन्होंने वो वैक्सीन नहीं लिया ना, उनका वो तो स्मॉल पॉक्स हो गया। मैंने उनको बताया देखिए ये साइंटिफिक रीजन नहीं हो सकता, ये दोनों ही वैक्सीन ले लिया, एक का हुआ एक का नहीं हुआ, ये तो हो सकता है। और ये इस तरीका का हम लोगों को छानबीन करना होगा कि ये डॉक्टर मतलब वो डॉक्टर साहब ने जो बता दिया वो सही है, ये सही नहीं है, वो तो कॉर्पोरेट का खिलाफ चल रहा है ना। तो हम लोगों को उसका जो मन में है वो सब कुछ हमारा मन में बैठा दिया, ये तो नहीं होना चाहिए। तो ये सब जानकारी सब जो दर्शकों के लिए जो देख रहे हैं उनके लिए तो बेहतर होगा कि ये सब पढ़े, जानकर उसको जानकारी मिले और क्वेश्चन उठाइए और न्यूज़पेपर और अखबार में जो है वो सही नहीं है, उसका आप डिसीजन मत ले सकते, क्योंकि वो टीवी पे या पर्दे पे आ रहा है कि कोई एक हेल्थ ड्रिंक में बहुत ज्यादा कैल्शियम होगा तो आप वही आप पी रहे हैं ना, उसके स्वास्थ्य बढ़ जाएगा, उसका हड्डी ताकत बन जाएगा हड्डी। लेकिन ये भी एक एडवर्टाइजमेंट हो रहा है तो वैक्सीन के बारे में ये तो हमको क्या पता चला क्या वो गवर्नमेंट का ओर से है, वो तो सही है। तो ये तो asking question is a science, I think.
Yes.
Dr. Reddy, Dr. Das.
Wonderful. Yes, asking question.
Thanks.
And I want Dr. Gautam Das to relate today's show. How can what is Dr. Tedros' qualification? And in spite of defeating
Yes.
in his own emergency meetings or executive meetings, how can Dr. Tedros impose stating that this is necessary, there may be unknown things, and there may be science, it may not be scientific and unknown things, and still how can he declare monkeypox as an health emergency as a doctor? How do you?
Doctor, firstly, Mr. Tedros is the first non-physician Director General of WHO.
Okay.
I think many people are not aware of the fact that Mr. Tedros is the first non-physician. He's not a medical doctor. He's the first non-physician Director General of WHO.
No, what qualification he possesses?
No, but so far as we know, that he got his PhD in public health from the London School of Public Health or so. He got his PhD, and when he was the defense minister of Ethiopia, probably after that or before that period, he got his PhD. And the history says that when he was the cabinet minister of Ethiopia in the capacity of defense ministry, and later firstly he was the health minister, later he became the defense minister, and during his tenure as health minister, he got in touch with powerful persons like Mr. Bill Clinton.
Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Mr. Bill Clinton, and he got associated with Clinton Foundation, and from there he were put into the international arena. Especially he was acquainted with Mr. Bill Gates, do not know how, and he served in his organization, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. He did many works, public health related works in association with BMJF. And everybody knows that he was put in the post of Director General by secret vote. And everybody knows who is the powerful person and what is the powerful organization at him. Even when he got his second term, after his debacle, he failed in every sense. during COVID-19. He himself said that 6 million people died. If that be so, it is his failure.
Yes.
No, Dr. Das,
He
one
was-
thing I like to
Then let him complete, Dr. Paul, because let him
Okay,
once he
okay,
completes,
okay.
let him not lose his rhythm.
Okay.
He was reinstated in his position again by secret ballot. So we know that he is empowered by powerful corporations and the foundations funded by them. He is their just mouthpiece. Every decision is taken by the foundations and they imposed it in the who has never been impartial, whose decision was always biased in favor of powerful big corporations, especially pharmaceutical companies, since the 70s. There was rampant corruption in the ranks of WHO. It was also reported, and WHO actually acted as a frontal organizations of these big corporations, especially pharma companies. And now, if you look at the funding of the WHO, you can have some idea who is pulling the strings. 16% of the budget, whose budget is given by one man, is Bill Gates, by two organizations, Gavi and BMGF, taken together, they contribute 60% of the total budget of the WHO. That is less than the amount given by a country, USA. So a private organization, so-called philanthropic organizations, they are the biggest funder of WHO. So they decide what will be the next agenda of WHO, what will be discussed in the WHO assembly. This is known facts. So we may target this fellow, hapless fellow, Mr. Tedros. He knows nothing. Practically, he knows not even the foundational biology. Had he known that, he could have not made this argument. Actually, he is parroting what his master has told him to say. He behaves just like a salesman. Nothing more than that. Dr. Pal, please.
No, but such unscientific
Yes.
statement, he says there is no science and unknown, but still he is declaring monkeypox as an emergency. How can that be?
That is why I am telling that he's defying the basic foundational biology, foundation of science, basic principles of science.
That too in June, the
Now-
emergency meeting, there was a big gap, 9 and 3. And then after that, the gap reduces 3 in spite of their mastering. But in spite of that, they have lost. He lost the vote to declare monkeypox as an emergency. But still, how can it be imposed? But why the country like India, why they are not questioning? Why they are accepting? Why America is accepting? Why Europe is accepting? And why Indian Medical Association, like big doctors organizations, are keeping quiet?
Dr. Reddy, there is an interesting thing that not only Mr. Tedros, there are a group of doctors, researchers, and scientists. They are sitting over big research organizations and foundations. They are clamoring about the monkeypox vaccine. Do you know? When the monkeypox was declared fake by WHO, they said that why so much delay? Why so much delay? They're putting forward these theories about monkeypox. Monkeypox has now become deadly. That is what they are telling, without any proof. They know that media is with them. Both media and themselves are funded by the same organizations. So it is quite a seamless operation. I think so.
But-
Whatever they say to the press. They don't need to give any clarifications or any proof. They don't care about it. They just say it to the media, and the responsibility goes to the media to feed it to the masses, to the people. So there is a nexus between the powerful companies manufacturing vaccines, drugs, and diagnostics, powerful foundations, philanthropic organizations, they are pushing for advocacy. They are funding the media and they are managing the government under the cover of philanthropic organizations. So the nexus is powerful.
Yeah, that's visible as you said. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. You have seen many from there. They have come to Indian Council of Medical Research. Again, back to WHO. All funded by this. Yes, Dr. Paul, you wanted to ask something.
Yes, actually, whatever the qualification Mr. Tedros has, he's purely guided by some other people. So even if there is a qualified doctor or qualified people who are there, had it been there, so I think that he might be guided by their godfathers. This doesn't make any sense. So this is the prime question, and obedience is the main problem, not the disobedience. That people are obeying their boss, and at the cost of human life, environment, future generation, everything. So this is the question of unquestionable faith for the person who are paid. They are getting fund from their fund organization. The similar case is happening in case of GM crops, genetically modified crops. Those who are developer, they are getting fund from their companies and they are eulogizing these genetically modified crops. And actually, it is not science. They don't have any scientific
We
basis.
will do that, Dr.
raise
Anupam.
questions in
Dr. Anupam Paul.
Yes,
We are
yes.
going to do a show with you.
Yeah.
I request Dr.
Yeah.
Gautam Da also to participate on genetically predisposed crops, green revolution. We'll start from green revolution so that
Yeah.
people will understand what is green revolution, how it has
Okay.
destroyed the basic health, and now fortification of foods.
Dr. Reddy, just two
Please
two
go ahead.
sentences.
Go ahead, Dr. Das, please.
Two sentences. We must give this message to the people who are looking over our public health system, who are managing our public health system, our ministries, and respected doctors of all our regulatory bodies. Please be aware that this WHO is misleading us right from the day when they instructed us to go for lockdown. This WHO is now a discredited body. They are misdirecting, misleading every countries, and we are paying with our price, heavy price. So please don't go with the way the WHO is suggesting. Why? Because we have said in this show that there are so many health emergencies really existing in our world. They're absolutely silent on that. Ours is a tropical country. We have different set of health problems, many killing diseases. We should focus on that. We should develop our own public health policies, and that should be insulated from the influence of WHO. That is our earnest request to our ministries and our health regulators. Please insulate yourself, distance yourself from this misguiding and discredited body called WHO. Let us develop our own national health policy.
तो एक बड़ी सी खुलासा आज के शो में, हु ये कौन है? वर्ल्ड हेल्थ ऑर्गेनाइजेशन। मेरी जिस्म, मेरी ज़िंदगी और ये मेरा हक है। मैं क्या कहूँ, किस तरह रहूँ और मैं क्या टीका लूँ या ना लूँ, किस तरह की चिकित्सा लूँ। आप कौन होते हैं? हु द हेल यू आर? आप कौन होते हो? क्योंकि भारत में जिस तरह की वातावरण परिस्थिति है, जिस तरह हमारी आहार व्यवहार शैली है, क्या ये आहार व्यवहार शैली और वातावरण, इसी तरह की वातावरण आहार शैली यूरोप और अमेरिका, अफ्रीका में है क्या? आप सोचिए नागरिक, किस तरह हमको उल्लू बनाया जा रहा है। हम सही समाचार आपको देने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं ताकि आप ये डर से बाहर आओ। वी आर ट्राइंग टू प्रोवाइड यू द करेक्ट इंफॉर्मेशन, scientific information, truthful information, so that the fear is gone from you. once you become aware, once you become knowledgeable, आपको एक बार क्या यह समझ में आता है, जब आपको सही जानकारी मिल जाती है, आपको यह डर खत्म हो जाती है और आप पूछताछ करना शुरू हो जाते हैं, आप प्रश्न करना शुरू हो जाते हैं. Once you that fear is lost, you will start questioning. That is what these shows with wonderful guests like Dr. Gautam Da and Dr. Paul are going to do. तो यही कह रहा था कि क्या हमारी जिस्म, रहन सहन और वातावरण, इसी तरह की वातावरण अफ्रीका, अमेरिका और यूरोप में है क्या? अगर ये नहीं है तो हम एक तरह की महामारी की रोग से कैसे हम बाधित होंगे, आप सोचिए. क्योंकि हमारी सरकार और हमारी शास्त्रीय जो संगठन है, इंडियन काउंसिल ऑफ मेडिकल रिसर्च, ड्रग कंट्रोलर, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया, हर एक स्वास्थ्य मंत्रालय राष्ट्र में, क्या ये लोग गुलाम हो गए? क्या ये लोग यही टीका लेते हैं, यही चिकित्सा लेते हैं, या मजबूरन सब लोग पकड़ के उनको उस टीका दिलाएं क्या, ताकि ये इस चालबाजी से बाहर हो, ताकि ये डर उनको चले जाए, पकड़ पकड़ के इनको वो टीका देना चाहिए. इसीलिए सही जानकारी आप लो, क्योंकि वहाँ के स्थितिगत वातावरण, आहार शैली, सब कुछ डिफरेंट है, अलग है. तो एक ही तरह की चिकित्सा, एक ही तरह की निवारण, टीका, वैक्सीन किस तरह हमारे ऊपर काम करेगा, और ये वैक्सीन टीका में क्या है, इस चिकित्सा में जो भी दिया जा रहे हैं दवाएं, वो दवाएं में क्या है. कोविड-19 अब आइसोलेट किया है तो बताइए. मंकी पॉक्स एंडेमिक है, जो 2 तरह की मेल्स में, गे में, मल्टीपल पार्टनर्स में होता है, वही बात करते हैं. अगर इस तरह की मर्द लोगों के बीच में ये मंकी पॉक्स है, किस तरह हमारे बच्चे और हमारे महिलाओं के ऊपर ये मंकी पॉक्स छा जाएगा. किसको उल्लू बना रहा है, वो किस तरह व्याप्ति होती है. 2 जब मर्द संपर्क में होंगे तभी मंकी पॉक्स, तो वहां से बच्चों को और महिलाओं को किस तरह होगा. ये साजिश नहीं है क्या? वर्ल्ड हेल्थ ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में 2 तरह की मीटिंग में इसको नकारा है, फिर बाद में भी डॉक्टर टेड्रोस ये अशास्त्रीय है और कुछ भी हो, कुछ पता ही नहीं, फिर भी महामारी के तहत आज हमारे ऊपर इसको, जैसा कोविड-19 के तरह, जिस तरह हमको डरा के लूटा है हमारे पैसे ये कंपनियों को गए, इसी तरह मंकी पॉक्स भी हमारे ऊपर चाहने की कोशिश कर रहा है. इसीलिए जानकार हो, यही शो के द्वारा हम जिस तरह उनको प्रश्न करते गए, बूस्टर खत्म हुआ, बच्चों के टीकाएं खत्म हो गई, जब लोग जानकार हो गए तो वो लोग हमारे ऊपर इस तरह की इम्पोजिशन करना बंद किया है. अभी भी हम यही चाहते हैं कि आज डॉक्टर गौतम दा के शो के द्वारा इतनी बड़ी अच्छी प्रेजेंटेशन, और हमारे देश के हिसाब से कौन सा रोग हमें बाधित करता है, जानलेवा है, क्या ट्यूबरक्लोसिस नहीं है, मलेरिया नहीं है, आधार के साथ, वो भी WHO के फिगर्स के आधार के साथ, जो पौष्टिक आहार के लोभ होने से जिस तरह हमारे ऊपर चाह जाते हैं, वो रोग जानलेवा नहीं है. कोविड-19 मंकी पॉक्स जानलेवा है, या मलेरिया, ट्यूबरक्लोसिस, या हम माल न्यूट्रिशन जो कहते हैं, सही तरीके की आहार ना मिलने से जो रोग आते हैं, क्या ये जानलेवा है या कोविड-19 मंकी पॉक्स? आधार के साथ आज खुलासा किया गया, और वहाँ पर भी यूरोप हो या अमेरिका हो, वहाँ फ्लू से काफ़ी लोग मर रहे हैं, वो महामारी क्यों नहीं बना. और यहाँ पर जब ट्यूबरक्लोसिस, मलेरिया, माल न्यूट्रिशन, आहार, सही आहार नहीं रहने से जो लोग मर रहे हैं, ये महामारी कैसे नहीं हुए? आप सोचिए, इतनी बड़ी खुलासा. और हम यही सोचते हैं कि आप जानकार हो जाइए, समझदार हो जाइए. प्रश्न करना आप जब से शुरू करेंगे, तब प्रधानमंत्री से मुख्यमंत्री, कैबिनेट सेक्रेटरी से लेकर चीफ सेक्रेटरी तक, ICMR से लेकर स्टेट हेल्थ डिपार्टमेंट तक, सबको आपको जवाब देना पड़ेगा. और इस तरह की साजिश करने से ये लोग डरेंगे, क्योंकि आप खुद एक संविधान हो, हर एक नागरिक एक संविधान है. ये बाकी के पूरे हमारे सेवक है. Every citizen is a constitutional authority, right from Prime Minister to Chief Minister, Cabinet Secretary to Chief Secretary. They're all public servants. We have provided you for correct information. You start questioning, how can a public servant boss over his citizen? That means you are the boss, we are the bosses. So boss should start questioning. When he will start questioning? When you have correct information, rightful information, truthful information, scientific information, evidence based information, which these channels, DRTSPR channel, Citizens DRTSPR channel, Environment People DRTSPR channel, through wonderful guests like Dr. Gautam Das, Dr. Anupam Paul, many other guests who have been coming to this show, they are trying to enlighten you. So we salute once again to all those wonderful guests. Let good happen to these wonderful guests and their families and their associates, so that they will come with more and more information onto these channels, so that a world of good is done to every citizen who is just not only watching, but who is there in this country and different parts of the world. We wish you better health, so that you can lead a happy and prosperous life. Don't forget, health is wealth. If you lose health, everything is gone. If a country loses health of the citizens, there is nothing left. So that now it is the duty of every citizen to rise above and start questioning, so that you can live like a boss, not being bossed by public servants. Thank you very, very much, sir. Good night. Take care. Thank you, Dr. Anupam Paul. Wonderful to have you. Dr. Gautam Da, once again, God bless you. Wonderful presentation. Wonderful. For all the Indians, at least now with this presentation, you can have Sukha Nidra. But this Nidra should arouse you those feelings to start questioning. So we say Sukha Nidra Shubharatri for all the Indians, for the world over. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. There will definitely be a repetition of this show. We will soon announce with a title, maybe a bit change, with the different, maybe same poster, but the guest Dr. Gautam Das and Dr. Anupam Paul will be the same. Bye, sir.